at these billings, what's the larger message for the markets? Attrition, high wage inflation here to stay?
That's what it looks like, at least in the IT space. We've delivered now stellar results for the last almost 3 or 4 quarters, and we've seen attrition rates climb up with almost all our customers. And I have not seen a market like this in over 15 years. I mean, the last time we saw a market like this was maybe just before we went public. Clients used to talk about IT professionals resigning on SMSs, right? Maybe today they're resigning on WhatsApp. That's the only difference. Otherwise, it's a hot market, and hopefully it'll continue to stay this way. And if it does, and we are also hoping now that the non-IT market will bounce back, because the third wave is sort of beginning to ebb. And so far, Omicron has not had any impact on business. And if all goes back to normal quickly, then hopefully the non-IT companies will also start hiring. They've been relatively quiet for the last few quarters, but hopefully that action in that segment will also start soon.
Okay, so let's watch out and see what happens in the non-IT ones. And wow, people are resigning on WhatsApp. I don't even know what to make of that, Hitesh. But, we're also talking at a time when there is just so much volatility. And, Nikunj keeps reiterating the point here in ET Now, that what we talk about IT here is not the same kind of tech companies that we talk about in the US and the sell-off that's taking place. Are you expecting any impact at all, as whether interest rates go up, whether there is a lag in the private markets or not for funding, etc.? Are you expecting any rub-off effect with what's happening globally?
No, of course. See, if tech stocks correct in the US and if liquidity sort of dries up, then of course it will have an impact on valuations and multiples of companies in India, both in the public and in the private market. Having said that, I think there are multiple stories playing out. Of course, there is a liquidity story, there's an interest rate story, but there's also a story of performance, right? So if companies which continue to perform will continue to do well, in my view, investors will continue to back them. And then the other story, which, I am sort of waiting to see play out is whether India will get back to 7% plus GDP growth or not. Because, when we went into COVID, India had slowed down considerably. GDP growth had become 4.5%, 5%. But now there are signs that the economy may be booming once again. So if we see India go back to 7-8% GDP growth for the next few years, there will be a different India and a different story altogether.
Hitesh, good morning. Nikunj also joining in. So if one has to understand the pattern within the IT business, one is you're getting business from the traditional IT companies, which are also growing. Second could be you're getting business from the startups. That's where the talent acquisition is also very large. Where have you hit the gold pot?
See, about 50% of our revenues are now from IT related sort of positions and openings. And most of these are from IT services companies. That's, these are the companies which employ millions of people. We have we work with maybe 8,000 IT services companies in some shape or form, MNC dev centers, captives, Indian IT services companies, large Indian companies, mid-sized companies, smaller companies. Between them, they employ millions of people. Attrition rates in these companies have gone up over the last few quarters. Their business is booming. And this is actually, as a result of massive sort of digitization wave, which is playing out globally. Even all non-IT companies now want to go digital. And that's resulting for more and more demand for IT talent, not just overseas. And as a result of that, in India as well. In the Indian market, local market also, demand from sort of Indian startups is growing, but they are still a very tiny part of our portfolio. They don't hire as many people as the IT services companies. What we're also seeing now in the local market is the non-IT companies are beginning to hire tech talent. So traditional sort of banks, insurance companies, consulting firms, they also want to grow their IT presence. And increasingly, we are seeing they're also looking to hire IT professionals through us. So, our IT business is fairly diversified. We have the local non-IT companies now wanting to hire IT folks. We have the IT services companies. They're a large part of our portfolio. We have MNC and their captives. And we also have startups who are now sort of using Naukri to hire talent.
Hitesh, that's the operating business which we've discussed, Naukri and other and the other operating business. Walk us through what happens to the other income part. Policy Bazaar is listed, Zomato is listed. There is nothing in the pipeline which will add substantially to your other income now. Could there be a drought and a vacuum, at least on that front, for next couple of quarters now?
So if the question is whether we have we have any company in our portfolio which is likely to go public in the next 2 quarters, the answer is no. I don't see any company in our portfolio going public for a while. The going public is a journey, it's a process. Companies have to reach a certain size and scale, and after that, also the market has to be supportive, and then the process to go public takes a few quarters. So we don't see any company. Any big company. There are some late stage investments we've made. Some of those companies will decide to go public at some point in time, but we don't see any early stage investments, of the type we made in Zomato and Policy Bazaar, any of those companies going public in the next few quarters. Of course, Zomato and Policy Bazaar could do well. They are listed, they are operating companies, and if they do well and their stock price goes up as a result of them doing well, then of course that will have an impact on our stock price. But we really can't predict how they're going to do. And we continue to sort of make strategic investments in the jobs and career space. We've invested in a company called Coding Ninja. We are shareholders in a company called No Paper Forms. We are investors in a real estate company called Broker Network. We will continue to sort of make small acquisitions. Last year, we acquired a few companies in the job space, Zwayam, DoSelect. Before that, we acquired IIMjobs. So these activities and investments will continue. But yes, we don't have any big company in our portfolio which is likely to go public in the next 1 or 2 quarters.
What you've achieved with Naukri, you've not achieved that with your other two businesses, the real estate business and the matrimonial business. Are those two businesses worth the effort? Because if you use the same manpower, talent, and your attention to just your core business, perhaps the gains would be very large. I mean, they are not number one or number two, unlike Naukri, which is a clear number one.
Well, in the real estate business, we are a number one player. We are a strong player. We've been a leader for a very long time. You're absolutely right in saying that these businesses have not scaled up as one would have liked them to scale up. One would have liked over a period of time, but they are not bad businesses. 99acres, did 61 crores in terms of billing last quarter, and is beginning to grow once again. Unfortunately, the real estate sector has been through a lot. And even last quarter, towards the end, our billing was impacted because of Omicron. Every time we have a COVID wave, house hunting comes to a halt. People don't sort of buy houses sitting at home, unlike job seekers who are happy to interview sitting at home, and companies are happy to hire them without meeting them. That doesn't unfortunately happen in the real estate market. Also, the real estate market is a little more competitive than the jobs market. You're right in saying that we are a clear leader in jobs, and there is a lot more competition in matrimonials and real estate. But these are interesting big categories to be in, and the game is not over, and it's not as if anybody else is a clear leader or anybody else has won these markets. So I think these stories will continue to play out over the next 5-7 years.
Hitesh, really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us, and hope to see much more of you going forward.